Hello, Nerd Fam, and welcome back to our fantastic exclusive series with Google Cloud, Passport to Containers. My name is Savannah Peterson here in our Palo Alto studios for theCUBE. Very excited to be bringing to you two more guests today in episode 9 of the series. We're going to be talking about Cloud Run, Agentic, Serverless, and all the things you need to be agile in this incredibly rapid era of innovation. Without further ado, please welcome Belinda and Lisa. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm going to try not to break the desk while we're hanging out. This is going to be super fun. Bobby, as usual, hyped you up as two fantastic voices. But before we dig in to some of the product story, I want to ask you both one of our favorite questions for this series, and that is, when did you fall in love with tech? Lisa, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think I just like the computer science, computer engineering in general when I was out of my high school. It's just
so already as a high schooler, and look at you now. So you did your path follow the trajectory you thought it would, or were there some surprises along the way?
I've been in the tech industry for my whole life, so definitely seen through a few tech shifts, right? But nothing is bigger than what we're seeing right now. You know, the age of the AI agents, where we're basically giving the code a brain. And who knows, tomorrow the code is going to make a coffee for itself.
Yes. Ooh, I love that analogy, giving code a brain. I haven't heard that one. We're going to come back to that when we dig in a little bit, but that was great, Lisa. Belinda, what about you? When did you fall in love with tech?
So my entry to tech is a little more anomalous. So I grew up in Eastern Kentucky. So, you know, there was no coding high school class or anything like that. I actually went to college and studied studio art and anthropology before I went into any sort of tech. And so but like in that time, I was like one of the first people in my class that like had a computer. My dad had a computer, my brother had a computer. When I graduated, I wanted my own computer. I spent like eons of time like looking at for like all of the parts and pieces that I want.
So you built it.
This was like 386 era. So this is a while. Yeah. I've been around for a bit. Okay, but like I made a transition actually through tech support. So I started in tech support actually. Moved into an IT role, learned to program a little bit, and actually got into startups. So it was by joining sort of a pretty technical startup that did like electronic discovery and working there sort of, you know, in the trenches for a while, that I kind of had to pick up a lot of sort of like coding, programming, database skills, and then got into management and went from that startup to other startups. And then eventually, like last 10 years, found myself in cloud startups before coming to Google. So like my background is pretty different, right, from most Googlers. There's definitely some other folks that I've run into during my time at Google. That's kind of made me appreciate, honestly, that I've got that like non-traditional background.
I think
Kelsey Hightower. Really, I don't know. You've probably talked with Kelsey at times. He's definitely one. Tim Hawkins also, who's very well known in the Kubernetes space. Same thing, right? So folks that kind of came out of these very different backgrounds and ended up at a place like Google. Just have a different way of thinking about
that. Diversity of thought, I think, is really important, especially when we're building the future. We were just talking about how important it is to bring all types of creators on this rocket ship that we're currently in the process of launching. I think what you just touched on is really imperative. I got to ask you a follow-up there. Do you find that you use your anthropology and art skills in your current role?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like you would, right? Yeah.
I mean, so much of like, particularly as like a manager of people and organizations, so much of what you're dealing with are like just like the fundamentals of anthropology. It's like culture and values and habits and like even it's like a way of looking at the social construct of just how to get things done, why people do what they do, what they value, what behaviors are rewarded versus punished. So a lot of it's like very portable. Yeah. And it's also allows me to kind of step back and not get like so over involved in what's happening. You can kind of step back and look at it a little bit from like the sociologist or anthropologist's eye, right? And sort of think about it.
Wow, I feel like low-key you could be teaching us all workshops on how to do that and have better balance between
There's actually tons of I mean, so for instance, if you look at folks coming out of user experience, right? A lot of what they're bringing are the things that have been sort of evolved from like ethnographic studies. Like we bring them into UX and design, and now they're just sort of fundamentals, right? To think about design of products. So I think like that's kind of already true, right? In that there's sort of a community of practice, right, in product development that already appreciates that. I think that's less true in engineering, right? Like engineering folks kind of don't generally sort of grow up seeing the world in those paradigms.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting observation in marketing and TV. I don't know, I can ask the production team what terms they see things in. Might get the conversation even spicier than we're anticipating today. I'll keep us on track here. So, Lisa, you said something, again, I'm going to definitely steal this and give you credit for it, but the brain to the code when it comes to agentic. I'd love to actually hear from both of you. Not a bigger hyped term right now than agentic AI and AI agents. How do you define agent? Lisa, I'll start with you since you kicked that off.
Sure. Yeah, AI agent, basically, you have AI that normally in the past that does everything, right? But AI agents are those, it's basically a software program that specifically focus on a very specialized task. So usually you use the large language model, and then what distinguishes actually what the AI agent versus a traditional, let's say, chatbot services is actually the use of effective use of tools. Yeah. So the tools refers to things like external systems, external databases. So basically, the large language models are the brain of an agent, and then the tools is really like the agent's hands reaching out to the digital world, right? And then so you have agent plus tools, and then that actually, the large language models plus tools then actually made an AI agent to help you accomplish a specific task.
Yeah, that gave us all a really nice little visual. I can see the little jazz hands of the tasks that the agents are running around doing. I like that a lot. Is there anything that you would add, Belinda?
In tech, of course, we love to give names to things. So like that, which we call an
acronyms.
Agent. Yes, names and acronyms all over it. So the agent is really like an evolution of software. So it's a pattern. And so if you think about like what is an agent, it's a piece of software that's able to leverage a model, right? As Lisa was saying, that can observe its environment, right? Whatever its environment, it's been sort of trained to observe, and it can take action. Right, and the way that it can take action is often through tools, right? As MCP, right, is where you start to see like the integration of different tools, APIs, like as a way it can take action. But it's really about being able to observe its environment and context, reason about it, and then make decisions and do stuff, right? And I think when we think about like agents, like a lot of the sort of magic is really about how does it reason about, right? Like what is the context that it has access to, and then what kinds of actions is it able to take? And that's also where you see the evolution of kind of multi-agent systems, right? So it's how do you string together each of these entities that has the ability to reason about some set of data, and take independent action, right, which might be sort of tailored from thing to thing. We'll get into some, I think, examples of that.
That's where I'm taking us next.
So, yeah.
Actually, why don't we stay there, and I'll let you both answer this as well. What are some of the use cases you're seeing or that you think are best practices for agentic in general, and then also chiming in on why Cloud Run is so great for our agentic future? We'll stay with you, Belinda, just to start us off.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of common ones that we're all sort of aware of. So we've seen, the chat bots. Chatbot is pretty prolific, right? As sort of a garden variety kind of agent. Of course, there's a lot of advancements that can be made on top of the chatbot, right? As we're seeing today. Even if you look at things like autonomous vehicles, right? Self-driving cars. Those are systems that have been built around kind of that same agentic thinking. You can take it all the way to the more sort of cutting edge example. So you've probably seen like the Boston Dynamics spot dogs, right? And those are pretty wild, right? Lots of different variations of that, but same thing, right? They're able to use sound, video, take in their environment, reason about things, use tools. But it's that same sort of pattern of kind of thinking and reasoning is sort of what you're going to see. Across any sort of like agentic system, and the more agents evolve, I think the more we're seeing the sophistication, right, in terms of multiple agents being able to collaborate with one another, right, with sort of specializations.
Yeah, I can definitely add to that, right? So there are so many AI agent use cases now being adopted in the field right now in each of those verticals, right? I talked about the code it's going to be able to make a coffee for itself. That might be a use cases for tomorrow, but there are plenty of other use cases that are actually actively being used today. So I'll give you an example. For example, in the academic research area, we have let's say we have an AI agent for a research assistant, right? So what this research assistant does is that it will take a foundational paper. Foundational paper usually are those paper that has a big ideas, right? It will analyze the idea and understand what is the what this paper is about, and then it's going to go ahead to use its hand to reach out to the digital world, whether it's used via the Google search or some other additional scientific search tools to find out additional paper that have cited this foundational paper, and then it actually uses advanced analytical skill to try to understand, hey, this is all these ideas are derived from this foundational paper. What is amazing to me is that then this AI agent is going to propose the future research directions based on all the synthesized information. So imagine what this can do to the research scientists, right? Accelerate the whole research discovery process, and then you just basically make the breakthrough much easier, right?
Yeah.
So if this is abstract enough, but we also have AI agents that touches upon our day-to-day life, right? For example, the auto insurance agent, right? That is very obvious. You can have auto insurance AI agent that helps you to fill out a new membership registration, the filing the claim, helps you with the, let's say, getting the roadside assistance, getting that tow truck to you as soon as possible. So I'm sure that type of AI agent is already in use today. And one of my favorite one in yet a different vertical is in the financial industry area. So financial advisor AI agent, can you imagine what it does?
It's so funny that I can imagine. I mean, we could be giving you a lot of portfolio advice. It's obviously not a financial advisor if it's a digital piece of code, but I'm excited to hear what you say next, because I was literally just thinking about this. I was like, I need to be a little bit savvier investor. I bet I can use these tools to help organize my learning based on what I already feel confident in versus my gaps and whatnot. So so please tell us, Lisa.
Yeah, so you can have a financial advisor agent that consists of, let's say, multiple sub-agent. So let's say you have a stock symbol that you're interested to buy, right? So you can actually, so it has this data analysis sub-agent that actually look into, take the stock symbol, and it's going to look into to pull out the SEC data and go to the, let's say, Google or some other website to get all the information, recent publications, recent news related to this stock, and then actually figure out what is the signal noise, and then actually come up with a data analysis report. That's and awesome. This report then gets fed into the next sub-agent, which is, let's say, trading strategist agent, and then where it's going to come up with a number of trading strategies based on the data research that from the previous agent, and then you have the execution sub-agent, which will then take this trading strategist agent output to say, hey, based on your investment horizon or time frame, based on your risk assessment, and then let's actually recommend whether to buy the stock or short the stock or get some option out of it, right? And a financial advisor agent is not going to be complete without a risk analysis. So there's a risk analysis agent that actually then take all of above, and then I come up with a risk assessment, and then say, hey, when you do take this action, here is the risk that you might be taking, right? So look, this thing just completely changed the way how we live, how we work, and how we play.
So do you think Wall Street's nervous or excited about this?
I think every vertical, you're going to see this kind of, it's going to change how we.
It's going to take out all the boring stuff that took too long anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to reduce toil. That's for absolute sure. Both of those were great examples, both of you. Both of you mentioned a lot of examples that are edge use cases. Do you think that we'll see agentic adoption happen faster at the edge, or we'll see more human benefit at the edge? Any thoughts on that?
The edge, what do you mean by edge?
Well, we're talking about devices or researchers doing things on their PC. I'm talking about where the physical action or the physical integration is with that. You know, you might be on your cell phone talking to your risk analyst or your financial advisor. So I'm just curious, do you think that most of the human interaction will happen on the edge? Are we still going to have a lot of agentic activity that's happening on-prem? I don't know, just curious.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're already seeing it at the edge. So if you think
Yeah.
of mobile devices as an edge,
Yeah.
right? Like people are already embedding agents, right, inside of phones, inside of applications. And so you can imagine, you know, for instance, you know, we've got a lot of customers, for instance, that are working on their shopping experience. How do we enable customers to have a better time, right? Whether they're in a store, whether they're on their way to a store, right? Whether they're shopping online, like all of those experiences, right, can be sort of enabled through better leveraging of agents. So, for instance, you know, a traditional experience. You know, I went to my local big box hardware store. I needed to buy a device. All the devices are in complete lockdown, and like the way that it works right now is I have to go and use my phone to summon, right, someone to come and unlock the thing, even though I already knew on my way to that store what I wanted. So if you imagine an agentic experience, right, that's such much more evolved, would have, right, a set of agents that's like already knows what I'm coming into the store for, already prepared to pull that thing off the shelf, have it ready for me when I get there.
Yeah.
And it's not a 3-hour wait or a 24-hour wait.
And it's teed up with your loyalty points. You've got that $5 coupon off for your new drill or whatever it
Probably will suggest a bunch of other stuff that I need to buy with that chainsaw or whatever it is that was going
Of course.
Right?
Or maybe some projects that recent customers just built with their new chainsaw or whatever that might be.
Exactly. So I feel like we've barely scratched the surface. So I think where we see agentic use cases kind of really picking up, it's like people are trying to solve a complex problem that they already have to solve today, right? Which is great. I mean, that's a fantastic way to start. I don't think we've yet seen the sort of like upside of like, how can we actually enrich the human experiences that we're already going through today, right? Like, I think that's like a buffet of agentic use cases that we're going to see evolve.
Absolutely. I think Jonathan Ross, one of the, used to be on your team and helped build the TPU, runs Grok now, one of my favorite people to interview. I love it. He always says, we're going to solve problems we don't even know how to think about yet.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting thing. You know, we've got this now we have this Z-axis, right? Where it's like when we got computers and we could communicate, we did what we'd have always done, send letters, and we called it email. We're kind of in that phase right now where we're doing things we've always done and we're calling it agentic, we're calling it AI. Obviously, there's a layer of efficiency and effectiveness that comes along with that that's very powerful and has great impact. But on the flip side, there's so much to come, and I think it's going to be really awesome. So speaking of that, why is Cloud Run such a wonderful tool for this? I'll start with you, Belinda, since you've given me the nod.
So what's Cloud Run? So Cloud Run is a serverless container runtime. We run functions, we run containers, we can run from source code, and it's very lightweight, no management, fast scale up, scales to zero, pay as you go. And really has been kind of the evolution of how to get sort of ready-made compute in like a very low toil sort of way for developers. So we very much have targeted developers, particularly for APIs, services, websites, things like that. So where agents has proven to kind of be a really good fit, and we're actually getting great adoption both from customers but also inside of Google. And it's because a lot of the same capabilities are needed by agents. So if you imagine in those kind of like workflow systems where you have multiple agents, typically what's happening is something needs to kind of be spun off, right? Like I'm going to assign a task, a thinking task, a context task, going and taking action, integrating with an MCP server, an API. And each of those is going to basically spin up a little unit of work that needs to go get done. And so that ability to do fast fan out, fast scale up, scale to zero when it's done, like those things are already built into Cloud Run. And then the payment model, right, that pay as you go is like really efficient. We've also got a lot of great fundamentals that are already in place, which our enterprise users and customers love. So, strong security boundaries. It's already, a strong isolation, multi-tenancy. So like kind of the sort of like hardcore security is already taken care of. right? And so for the people that are using Cloud Run in those use cases, they can really focus on the sort of business logic of building their agentic system and not worry so much about how do I manage the compute and infrastructure layer. So that, we're basically solving that problem for those, agentic developers, so they can focus on the agentic aspects of the problem that they're solving.
Yeah, they can go to the thing. It's like those fancy meal food boxes that show up and everything's set for you to have the right amount of protein, have everything, and then you can just go do whatever creative thing that you're trying to do. It's that kind of plug and play. So, I mean, every time we have these conversations with your team about Cloud Run, it makes so much sense. And the agility and the flexibility, particularly as the needs of the different enterprises and companies ebb and flow throughout both their given day of workloads as well as just whatever they might be building right now. What are some of the best use cases or most common use cases of how your community is using serverless GPUs? Lisa, I'll start with you.
Oh, the serverless GPU? Yeah, so serverless GPU is basically, we actually recently, I think a few months ago, it's becoming generally available on Cloud Run. So not only it's a great place to serve, like Belinda said, to serving and orchestrating, performing the serving and the orchestration for the AI agents. With the serverless GPU, you actually can now host the lightweight open models. So basically, you can host the Gemma 3 model, DeepSeek R17B model, so we support NVIDIA L4 GPU today. And then that's actually great for you to do some cost-effective, low latency AI inference type of use cases, right? So there are plenty of benefits for using the serverless GPU, right? Like Belinda mentioned a lot of those benefits already. It is on demand. And this is also super important for the GPU case because a lot of times you actually have to go reserve, but with the serverless GPU, it's on demand and it's scaled down to 0. Obviously, that's a huge advantage when you actually have a sporadic traffic pattern, right? And then saves you the cost.
And most people do.
Yeah, most people do.
Especially right now.
Yeah. And then also with the Cloud Run GPU, you get to actually one of two key benefits that I like most is it really has really fast scale. So a faster start time. What does it mean? Is that, for example, literally from 0 to 1 means that you actually from 0, you then spin up the container instance, get the driver preloaded. It only literally takes 5 seconds and then takes some additional maybe 10, 20, 30 seconds to load your model and framework, right? The reason this is
pretty quick.
It is because this compares to usually it takes like 5-10 minutes to actually get a model
You're
loaded.
Like getting up and going, getting a cup of coffee.
Why this is important? Because this actually then imagine you're a developer, you need to iterate upon
and the power you're using.
Exactly, and then it's a fast iteration that you get out of this, right? So it's it gives you the great developer velocity to a large degree for that.
And who doesn't want that?
I know.
Always, but especially right now, it's such a unique landscape.
And I would say for our watchers, maybe we should probably distinguish a little bit between, when do we use Cloud Run GPUs and how is that relevant to an agentic system? So an agent, for example, doesn't necessarily need a GPU.
Correct.
Where the GPU is used is when we're going to run some sort of inference.
Absolutely.
So for instance, if that agent needs to basically, attach to a model, if it needs to generate some creative set of cat pictures, right, from the prompts that were generated.
Yeah, inference is all the stuff that makes the AI experience feel real.
Yeah, exactly.
And magical.
Exactly.
It's
It's those magical bits where, they're CPU intensive, memory intensive, need a lot of compute power, and are reaching to the model. That's where the GPUs fit into place.
That's actually such a good point, Belinda. So let me just give you a few quick examples of our customer using the serverless GPU, right? And then, for example, we have a customer, it's a global phone maker, right? And then they actually use the GPU in their mobile app. For example, there's an app called a Magic Eraser. It actually allows you to actually edit your phone. So the photo, edit your photo image, and then let's say you want to remove some unwanted scene from your photo, you'll be able to it's actually in the back end, it calls the serverless GPU to do that, right? And I
always wondered how that worked. I've seen people use the Magic Eraser. Oh, that's cool.
That's how it works, right? The serverless GPU in the back end. And then we have another customer who actually used the serverless GPU to host a embedding model. So basically, let's say we have this customer called a Wayfair. It's a furnishing company, right? They have a vast amount of furnishing catalog. And then you want to turn them into a vector in the vector database. So vector database allow you to do semantic search. So basically, it's fast, and it's also you'll be able to search based on the context, not only on the word itself, right? So then they actually use the serverless GPU to host the embedding model, turn the catalog into a vector, and then store them in the vector database. So that's another use of the serverless GPU. It's a little bit then the AI agent itself, because this is only one part of the AI agents, the use of the AI model part, right? AI agents is more than that. As we talked about, AI agents has tools, AI models, right? So yeah, it's a great call out by Belinda.
Yes, I love that differentiation. I think that's important. Belinda, how do y'all drink your own champagne when it comes to using Cloud Run inside Google?
So there's some history here. So it's probably not well known, but Cloud Run is actually the evolution of the infrastructure that was started by Google App Engine. And so Google App Engine was actually sort of the pre-cloud cloud, right, that Google took to market. And if you look at the genesis of App Engine, it used to have a code name internally. It was Project Prometheus. And they called it Prometheus because the idea was that they were going to bring fire to the humans. And that fire was actually Borg, because inside of all of Google is Borg as sort of the compute infrastructure. It was sort of the predecessor of Kubernetes. And so that bringing of fire, the infrastructure side of that, which is things like our data planes, some of our autoscaler, a lot of those pieces are actually still present today and have been evolved and are essentially what's under the hood for Cloud Run. So when we look at like what we're doing with Cloud Run, inside of Google, it is actually the part of Google Cloud that is the most like Borg, right? And so since Googlers are already used to using Borg, again, great developer experience, super low toil, don't have to think about infrastructure management, has been very attractive right, inside of Google. So we're seeing a lot of adoption, everything from internal IT workloads. There's actually a project called Corp Run, right, which is sort of a wrapper around Cloud Run, and it enables things like HR apps, IT apps, things like that. And then actually we have a lot of products that are also essentially using Cloud Run as the underlying compute infrastructure. Actually, a number of the AI products that you've probably done other sessions with use Cloud Run in that capacity, some of the API products as well. And then we've been collaborating a lot with the DeepMind folks, just as we talked about, right, given everything we described around agents and the sort of like compute capabilities and the fast startup and cost effectiveness. We're getting a lot of traction, particularly around AI workloads that want to take advantage of Cloud Run, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to kind of go and have to build multiple sort of competing compute infrastructures when we've got something so great and just like battle tested like Cloud Run that's able to solve that for folks. And I think for us the benefit is as much as we have an incredible like enterprise adoption with public sector and a lot of financial services, which is wonderful to see. Our biggest customer is still Google, right? And Google customers, like they'll come to you with their feature requests, their complaints, but they'll also provide pull requests and actually help us get things out the door more quickly. And so it creates a pretty dynamic environment, right, to be able to kind of build cutting edge solutions for Googlers, right, as they're bringing stuff to market. And then be able to turn around and provide those same benefits to our outside customers.
It's a pretty sweet feedback loop, too.
Yeah.
With that internal and external community, it allows you to iterate in a way that really serves the future, which is what everyone's trying to throw a dart at right now. I mean, always, but particularly right now. What's one thing you wish more people knew about Cloud Run? Lisa, I'll start with you.
Sure. I just want everybody knows that Cloud Run is such a great platform, not only for the developers, but also for the enterprise. So Cloud Run itself, a lot of times people mention Cloud Run, they think, oh, this is great for prototyping, great for experimentation. But Cloud Run itself is such a great enterprise-grade platform that it has a robust set of security, compliance, and networking features, right? Whether you want to do, for example, integrate with identity-aware proxy, allows you to do the user authentication, authorization. We actually have secure software supply chain to support our enterprise customers. For example, only authorized the image gets deployed to the production via binary authorization. Things like that, those features are super, super important to enterprise customers.
And super expensive if you're building each one of those things out yourself internally, particularly if you're trying to show something at scale. I mean, each one of those tasks require their own teams to be compliant, to to have the privacy and security that you need. I feel like, nerds are kind of having a moment right now, and I feel like some of the traditionally less sexy aspects of our jobs are also having a moment right now, because if we don't put the right bumpers up, we can't score the strike on the bowling lane and do awesome things. I think that's so important. What about you, Belinda? What do you wish everyone knew?
So when I meet with customers, I go to conferences, there's really sort of two big myth-busting areas that I always run into, and it just like cracks me every time. So the first one is like the notion of serverless, right, which has become kind of a little bit of an overloaded, confused word. But for many folks, when they think serverless, they think functions, right? Because Lambda really sort of defined it with their functions offering. And so when they think Cloud Run, they assume it's a functions offering. Now, we do have functions in Cloud Run. We can accept functions as source code, but it is really a full-featured compute platform, right? And while it's serverless in nature, it is not at all defined to functions. Actually, most of what customers bring to us are containers. So it's really more of a container orchestration that has a lot of the same simplicity and magic of what you would think of when you think of serverless. The other myth buster is people assume that it's Kubernetes under the hood. And that's a fun one to sort of detangle. And some of that's self-inflicted because we actually have a Kubernetes API. So we built Cloud Run with the notion that you would have Knative compatibility, so that when you built a workload and you wanted portability between Kubernetes and Cloud Run, you would get that by virtue of Knative. But folks have read that to mean, oh, it must be Kubernetes inside, right?
I've had to dispel that myth actually a few times, especially as a part of doing this series. It's like, no. Two separate entities, two different engines, two different tools.
Absolutely. And I just want to also, add one more thing to what Belinda said. Actually, since we talked a lot about AI agents, I feel like I have to say that Cloud Run actually supports a diverse type of workload, agentic AI app, AI agents. We talked about serverless GPU, but AI agents, Cloud Run is such an ideal platform for AI agents. For example, we talked about the different components of AI agent, right? I talked about a large language model as the brain, and the tools is more like agents hands reaching out to the digital world. But then you also have let's say the orchestration layer that pieces everything together. It knows when to call what tools, or when to call the large language model. It knows the goal of this AI agent, right? And then so for this, to host all this orchestration layer, you need a runtime, right? The runtime is literally where you bring it's the engine where you bring the AI agent into life, right? And this is where the Cloud Run plays really a key role, right? And then also, for example, for the large language model, needs to talk to the tools, and then we have this Anthropic came up with this MCP model, context protocol. I'm sure you heard about it. And this actually basically allows, it gives a standard way for large language model to talk to all these different type of services out there. So it's more like USB-C. You have the laptop and then connecting to all the different peripherals via the USB-C. And then, by the way, actually, this is more of a client and server architecture, right? And the Cloud Run is perfect to host MCP server. So MCP server is usually it's just a thin layer of function that wrapped around your existing API services. So the client, which are the AI agents, can call those servers. They don't have to worry about any of the API changes, right? So for example, you have the weather survey, you can call the weather.com API, and then we'll be able to actually or you can call the Yahoo stock website. All you need to do is just use the MCP protocol, and then you don't have to worry about all the underlying APIs. So Cloud Run plays a very key role there.
Yeah, we're getting to this much more simplified, unified experience when it comes to interoperability that's hopefully going to be a little bit less messy and clunky as some of our last technological era shifts. All right, final question for you both. What do you hope that our current technological revolution, it doesn't have to be agentic or AI or even containers, just what do you hope that the stuff that we're working on now does for the people that you love outside of our little technology bubble? Belinda, I'll start with you.
So I love where AI is headed. Even in the last 6 months, like some of the things that we've seen evolve have really surprised me. So I'll give an example. AI Studio and the stuff that it's launched and seeing the integrations that we've done with Cloud Run, we can now see like non-programmers basically go and describe an idea that they have, see it implemented in code, and get deployed to the cloud. And while certainly having some programming skills and understanding what's happening under the hood, can help, right, if they want to edit it and make changes. A lot of people don't have that. So there's a lot of folks who have, limited or no technical background that are now developers, right? Which that's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, you think about 20 years ago, there was no equivalent, right? So I think seeing this kind of democratization of the notion of like what it means to be a developer, and how to build stuff that like people can use and find valuable and have it be in the cloud. It's really kind of changing a lot of our assumptions about what we think of when we talk about like what is a developer. When we thought about who is a developer of the Cloud Run, we never had like a specific kind of developer in mind, like a Python, Node, Java, like whatever, right? It was always meant to be, we want to be sort of most welcoming and inclusive of the kinds of workloads, independent of the sort of type of workload or type of code or type of framework. And now if you think about where we are today, that even the notion of code and languages and all that is really being abstracted away. So for me, the evolution of that becomes much more and more how can we make that which we call cloud much more self-driving, much more prescriptive, not just adaptive, but actually be able to kind of anticipate what it is that people are going to need to manifest the ideas that they have, right? And so again, going back to that art and anthropology background, the notion that that building software becomes more of a creative practice, right, than an engineering practice is sort of mind-blowing, and I think it's awesome, and I can't wait for it to be the case.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It really does. I'm going to bring us full circle there, Belinda. Love that circle back to the anthropology. Lisa, what about you? What do you hope this era brings into your world?
Yeah, let me actually start with this vibe coding, right? So I'm sure you heard about vibe coding, right? So this is really an emerging paradigm for all the software development. So vibe coding is all about how you turn the ideas into code with minimum friction, right? And Cloud Run seems to me is a natural fit and the next step, where then you turn your source code into a live functional app within with no time and with minimum infrastructure to manage, right? And then vibe coding is also all about this instantaneous feedback loop, and then Cloud Run basically gives you all these faster iterations, and then you can get to do the experimentations, prototypes, and whenever you're ready to push it to production, you'll be able to actually Cloud Run scales up for you instantaneously. But the future innovation, I do think it's pushing this paradigm even further. The vibe is broken if you have to worry about when you turn your code into production, you have to worry about how do I configure this concurrency settings in my container instance, or how do I have to worry about the security vulnerability patches or OS updates, right?
It's a lot to think about.
It's a lot to think about, right? So the vibe is broken. So the goal is to make the surveillance infrastructure be so adaptive and intelligent enough, it becomes totally invisible to developers, right? And then so you get to stay in this vibe where you have the concept, take the concept to prompt, to code, to deploy all the way to production in a single frictionless workflow. And then the reason I mentioned that, how does that affect us? Because we are all going to be the vibe coders, or we are already vibe coders. We're part of this vibe coding community because AI is democratizing whole software programming, right? So we actually then get to enjoy really the focus on the joy of creative building, right? And then this is also when I think the code not only has a brain, but it's also going to make a coffee for itself. That time is coming.
Also bringing it full circle. Well done, Lisa. Yeah, I think it's about vibe creating, right? That we were blocked by not being able to speak the same language, whether that be NLP or code or anything, quite frankly, from a truly universal collaboration experience. And I agree with both of you. The future is bright. It's going to be great. Thank you both so much for taking the time today. This has been absolutely fantastic.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
Yes. And I hope you've all had as much fun as we've had here on episode 9 of our exclusive series with Google Cloud, Passport to Containers. My name is Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.